Hi, my name's Royce and I'm a first-year MD-PhD student at the University of Pennsylvania. In this video, I'm going to be talking about all of my medical school MD-PhD acceptances and also my reasons for choosing UPenn's MD-PhD program. Let's get started. So I applied 2 cycles ago. This is the 2019-2020 med school application cycle. All of my applications were for MD-PhD programs. I applied to 25 schools with my AMCAS primary, and I filled out my secondary for around 22 schools. Throughout the entire cycle, I ended up getting 8 interviews. And finally, I ended up getting 3 medical school acceptances. The first one was UC Irvine, which was in December of 2019. When I got a call from the MD-PhD director, I felt an enormous sense of relief. I thought to myself, wow, I'm gonna be a doctor. My dream is no longer a dream, it's gonna happen. And that's because med school has a very good attrition rate. Upper 90% of people who enter med school end up graduating. So once I get into medical school, then there's no question that I'll become a doctor eventually. So that was a really great feeling. My second medical school acceptance was from Washington University in St. Louis in January. This one I was extremely excited for because it was one of the top 2 programs that I wanted to go to for MD-PhD. And later on in this video, when I start talking about the reasons why I chose UPenn, I believe that many of those reasons also apply to WashU. So I was very excited to get this acceptance, and it was in January, which I felt very fortunate for, so I knew I could just chill for the rest of senior year. And because I knew I wanted to go to WashU or UPenn for sure, I ended up withdrawing from all my other schools. This included my previous acceptance from UC Irvine. This included my upcoming interviews. This also included schools that pretty much ghosted me since I first sent in my secondary, which was a good feeling because I could reject them first before they could reject me. In January of 2020, I only had 2 offers left on the table. One was my acceptance from WashU, and 2 was my pending offer from UPenn, which would release its decision in March, along with all the other IVs. So that was a very good feeling because, thinking back to where I started with 25 or 22 applications, I only had 2 left on the table, and I really felt like I had control of my own destiny. So I was definitely an extreme case because I knew for sure that I wanted to either go to UPenn or WashU for MD-PhD, and I felt comfortable withdrawing from all my other programs. But even though I was an extreme case, if this applies to you, I do encourage you to please withdraw from programs that you definitely do not want to go to. The med school application process is extremely unforgiving, and you'll be doing a good thing by giving those acceptance spots and those interview spots to people who are struggling without any interviews or who are struggling on wait lists and don't know if their dream of becoming a doctor will become a reality. There's honestly little value in having like 10 acceptances or 25 interviews because you can only attend 1 school at the end of the day. So unless you are truly indecisive, I highly recommend that you withdraw from schools that you know for sure you're not going to go to. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about a few reasons why I decided to go to UPenn for MD-PhD. Obviously, since I'm an MD-PhD student, one of the primary reasons for me is research. I did bioengineering research as an undergrad, and one of the most important things for me looking at a program was their level of translation. That is, their ability to bring innovations from the lab to the bedside and help patients in the clinic. And at UPenn, there's a very high level of collaboration between the engineering and medical schools. I think this is embodied by the fact that it's only a 5-minute walk to get from the medical school to the engineering school. So at Penn, I was able to find multiple potential PIs who worked on photonics and optics and cool materials like graphene and developed technologies based on them. But more importantly, those multiple PIs were able to translate their engineering innovations to biomedical applications, including cell culture studies or in vivo studies. And pretty much all the PIs seemed really nice and really supportive. And the PI that I'm working with now, whom I'll probably be doing my PhD with, has had a really great track record of many MD-PhD students, which is not something I've seen at any other school. So there's one engineering professor that I'm working with who works on cool materials like graphene and who does cool computational stuff like machine learning for data analysis in imaging and electrophysiological studies. He currently has 5 MD-PhD students, and he's had many MD-PhD students in the past who've matched to really great residency programs. So all of these factors combined make UPenn's research fit really great for me and really great for MD-PhDs in general. Another big factor for me is this kind of MD-PhD culture that UPenn cultivates. They have a culture that's really supportive and allows MD-PhDs to flourish. And I think this is evidenced by the fact that they have the largest MD-PhD program in the US with over 200 trainees currently. And there's this kind of MD-PhD zeitgeist. For example, every other lecture we would have for medical school would be an MD-PhD. there's so many MD PhDs who are faculty at UPenn. And I feel like at a lot of other places that I interviewed, MD PhDs weren't really taken seriously in a way. It's as if people didn't see the value in having 2 degrees, which is perfectly fair. But at UPenn, I never got that vibe. The program itself is run really well. I mean, obviously, if there are over 200 trainees. The time to graduation is 7 to 8 years for bioengineering MD PhDs. And this is not something you see at other schools, which can have on average 9 years for bioengineering MD PhDs to graduate. It's a very well integrated and well-run program. And I really think it's the MD PhD administration that makes it all possible. Even though we are the biggest program, the admin know you on a personal level. There's one admin who knows personal details about my life and can talk with me comfortably about things going on with me and my fiance at home. The MD PhD process is extremely long, and having people like this who know you on a personal level and who can talk to you about life things can make you feel less alone and more supported when you need it most. The next factor for me is the student culture at UPenn. Especially with MD PhD students, I never really got this vibe of people being really hardcore, being, gunner types. Most of the MD PhDs I met at my interview were really chill and took things really easy. Trainees here prioritize work-life balance. And most importantly for me, there wasn't this sense of ego. So there was never like this sense that I'm an MD PhD student, so I'm better than other people, or I go to UPenn and I'm better than other people. And at the end of the day, if there are some people who are more competitive or who are not as cordial as others, the program is enormous, so I can just find some other friends. So going into this 8-year journey, having many people who are going through the journey with me and having many who vibe well with me was really important to provide a support network. Another factor for me, which wasn't too important at the time I made my decision, but I realize now is actually really nice, is the curriculum structure. At Penn, there's a big emphasis on small group learning. So with a lot of our learning being virtual, it's really nice to have a small team of 6 or 7 people to learn with and to socialize with. We tend to have exams around once per month and not more frequently, which is really nice because I don't have to study all the time. So other schools I was looking at would have something called flipped classroom style, or they would have exams like once per week, which was good in theory for us learning, but it also meant I'd just be studying all the time. And I didn't want that going into medical school, as naive as that sounds. So now I have plenty of time to do other things that I enjoy, like cooking, or playing basketball with friends, or creating content. And the final factor for me is location. When I visited Philly, I loved it. It's a big city, but it's also very manageable and very walkable. The cost of living was not super high, which is great for me because MD PhDs tend to have around the same salary across different programs and across different cities. And also I'm a big fan of Philly sports, like the 76ers. But that was obviously not a huge factor. So that's it for this video of all my medical school acceptances and why I ended up choosing UPenn at the end of the day. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thanks, and I'll see you later.